Hey everyone, welcome back to Metal Mondays with Maiden. This week we got a hair metal takeover. We have Skid Row, we have Badlands, and we have Hot in the Shade from Kiss. I don't know what could sum up 1980s, early 90s hair metal other than these three records. They are monumental in their own way, and they're instrumental in others. So let's go ahead and get started. We have Skid Row coming up first. This is the debut record from Skid Row. It was recorded in 1988 at Royal Recorder Studio in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. It was released on January 24th, 1989 on Atlantic Records. And the backstory with Skid Row, for those who you don't know, it was formed in 1986 in Toms River, New Jersey, with the founding member Dave Sabo. Dave Sabo and John Bon Jovi were actually close childhood friends, and they made a pact: whoever would make it to the bigs first, the other would help. So, actually, John Bon Jovi recruited Sebastian Bach to be the lead singer of Skid Row, as he had seen them playing, he saw Sebastian playing around New Jersey at the time. So John Bon Jovi, being true to his word, brought in Doc McGee, who helped get Skid Row a record deal on Atlantic and started moving them towards what they became, a massive, massive band in the early 90s. The band toured heavily supporting this record. They opened up on John Bon Jovi's New Jersey World Tour, and then finishing up 1989 on Aerosmith's Pump Tour. This album peaked 6th at the Billboard 200 and was certified 5 times platinum by the RIAA in 1995 for shipping 5 million copies in the US alone. This record still holds up to this day, 35 years later, with singles such as Youth Gone Wild, 18 in Life, and I Remember You. And of course, they were all on MTV, they all had videos, and they received massive, massive airplay at the time. So let's go ahead and look at this one. This is an Atlantic. This is an original clear shell pressing from the U.S. So he says Rockefeller Plaza, New York there. So this is the Atlantic. This is a clear shell. Again, like I said, clear shells were 1989 and above. Black shells were from 84 to 89. And the white shells and the gray shells were prior to 1984. So this has some of the best Skid Row material. And of course, they went on to play multiple years after, releasing multiple records. But to me, this one stands up. This is, for me, the top of the Skid Row pile for sure. So Dave Sabo, thank you. Sebastian Bach, you're the man. And if you don't watch Trailer Park Boys, you should. Sebastian Bach makes a few appearances there. He's quite comical, and I enjoyed it. So next up, we have Badlands. Badlands. What can we say about Badlands? Well, this features some pretty heavy hitters as well in that band. This album, Badlands, subtitled, was released in 1989 and recorded at One on One Studios in LA and finished at the record plant between 1988 and January 1989. It was released on the Titanium independent label, then later picked up by Atlantic Records. It does rank number 35 in Rolling Stone's list of top 50 greatest hair metal bands of all time, and one of the best albums of that time. The band released videos for the songs Dreams in the Dark and Winter's Call, which is a sort of a Led Zeppelin blues rocky kind of track. It's really good. This also features the lineup of Ray Gillen, Eric Singer, who both played in Black Sabbath together, former Aussie guitarist Jakey Lee, along with former Surgical Steel bassist Greg Chiasson. Surgical Steel, check them out, they were great. The band was short-lived and active from 88 to 1993 and released 3 records: Badlands, Voodoo Highway, and later, following Gillen's departure and passing, which we'll get into in a second, they released another album called Dusk, which was just basically the demos with Ray Gillen. Ray Gillen passed away due to AIDS in 1993 and pretty much ended any hopes of reuniting Badlands as a band. They were full of lots of controversy. They were up and downs. Jakey Lee and Ray Gillen didn't get along, and Eric Singer was fired and then later joined Kiss. And there's some stories behind this band. But great record, great band at the time. And again, like Guns N' Roses circa 1992, they wanted to kill each other, but when they played together, they did wonderful magic. It was great. So like I said, a couple of notables on this one were High Wire for me and Winter's Call, which are two of my favorite tracks. Nothing around the cover art is really interesting here. It's just the standard 8x11 promo band photo that, you know, every record company does for their bands. And again, this was released on the Atlantic label. And this is a different one because this was released on the Black Shell. It does have the Titanium Records logo there in the bottom. I picked this up for $3 at a local record store a few years ago. And I say it was the best $3 I've ever spent. What a great record. I'm a big Eric Singer fan, so that's easy. And again, I was a big fan of Surgical Steel, so anything with Ray Chies on all day. So that's Badlands, self-titled, first record. Great, should listen to it, and if you don't like it, well, nothing I can do for you there. It's a great one. And last but not least, I saved this one for the end because this one chokes me up every time I get emotional about it. So here we go. Hot in the Shade. Hot in the Shade is the 15th studio record from Kiss. It was recorded between July and August of '89, released late '89 on Mercury. Gene and Paul specifically chose the Fortress Studio in Hollywood for its raw and engaging sound dynamics for this record. They wanted a more raw rock feel versus the Crazy Nights record, which is more of a radio-friendly, commercial, slick production type of record. They wanted to get more to the roots of rock and roll, do more raw stuff, and Hot in the Shade was what they came up with. This album released 3 huge singles, Hide Your Heart, Rise to It, and Forever, which is the biggest hit of the band's non-makeup era. And the track was actually written by Paul Stanley and Michael Bolton, believe it or not. The single reached number 8 in the Billboard Top 100 in 1990. So here's the copy of the single. And in Canada, it came out on a paper label. In the US, it came out as a regular cassette. So this is the Forever cassette single. And again, written by Michael Bolton and Paul Stanley. And this epic album features some additional musicians that would be later part of the Kiss story in future years, including then Black and Blue guitar player Tommy Thayer. Tommy played the electric acoustic guitar on Betrayed and The Street Giveth and The Street Taketh Away. Also, it included some session drumming from Kevin Valentine, who drummed on parts of Kings of Hearts and You Love Me to Hate You. Valentine was later recruited to record the drum tracks for Psycho Circus when the reunion tour happened. And for those of you who don't know, Peter Criss only drummed on one track on that record, on Psycho Circus. The rest was Kevin Valentine. So famous session drummer, did a lot of uncredited stuff with Kiss and other bands. He's a really good drummer. The cover art was designed by Scott Townsend under the direction of Michael Kaner at Mercury. And it features a Sphinx here with sunglasses and a postmark that says Hot in the Shade. So this album here is near and dear to my heart. Let's go over and show you quickly. This is the Black Shell Canadian version of the record. See here, it's got the printed labels directly on the shell, Black Shell. Manufactured in the Montreal cassette facility that a lot of Canadian tapes were made was in Montreal at the Mercury record plant there. And again, this was the last album, full album, to feature then drummer Eric Carr. And Eric Carr later passed away on November 24th, 1991. He died of heart cancer at age 41. You imagine, 41 years old, you're in the biggest band in the world and you have heart cancer. What a way to go, man. He died the same day as Freddie Mercury, and he is certainly gone and not forgotten right here. Rest in peace, Eric Carr is one of the best drummers that I ever grew up listening to and was one of the main influences of my life. And again, his name was Paul Caravello, but his stage name was Eric Carr. So rest in peace, Eric. This is the last one to feature Eric Carr. And again, near and dear to my heart. I get emotional when I think about it. I have a hard time listening to some of those tracks because of Eric and knowing that that was his last stint behind the drum kit. He was later featured in a couple of demos later on. And I think Thrashes, Smashes, and Hits had a demo with Eric Carr. But this is the last full-length album featuring Eric on drums. So that's what we got this week. We got Hot in the Shade. We got Badlands, the future drummer who then actually would replace Eric Singer. And of course, Skid Row, some of the New Jersey boys that were rocking it back in the day. So thanks everyone for coming. Till next week, I appreciate everybody. Thanks for stopping in. Have a great week.